Hey everybody, it's Taylor with Boydston Grove, and today we're going to show you how to make a magic piggy bank.
Where did it go?
Oh, that was amazing!
Let's get into it. I used to have one of these banks as a kid, and even though I understood how it worked, I still found it mesmerizing. So now we're going to show you how to make one of your own. I found a scrap of 1/2-inch plywood that had some really nice patterns in it, so I decided to miter the corners of the box to keep the grain continuous on the outside. Now, if you've noticed, I've set up a stop block on my table saw fence. This is really important for safety because this will keep my pieces from getting stuck between the table saw fence and the blade and either getting jammed or causing kickback. I put a dado in each piece to hold the plexiglass that will go in the front, and I also added a rabbet to each piece for the back panel to set into that will act as the lid or the door. I needed to cut a slot at a diagonal in the two side pieces for the mirror panel to sit in. This would have been easier to tackle beforehand, but fortunately the kerf of my handsaw is the same width as the mirror panels I purchased, so it worked out just fine. You can easily cut plexiglass in these plastic mirror panels on a table saw as long as you're moving at a nice, slow pace. I'll leave a link to both the plexiglass and the mirror panels I'm using in the description below. Before moving further, I did a dry assembly to make sure everything was fitting properly. I used a 1/4-inch bit and the scroll saw to create a slot in the top of this money bank. I noticed during the dry fit that the light colored plywood made the edge of the mirror very noticeable inside the box, so I decided to paint all the visible areas dark blue to try to hide the edges of the mirror. Because I won't have access to that front section of the bank after assembly, I decided to use Titebond's Quick and Thick because it dries clear. That way I won't have to worry about any squeeze out inside the bank. Now before we continue with assembly, I want to go over a few things. When you look these little mirrors up online, almost all of them have something attached to the front of the mirror, giving the illusion that something is floating on the inside of the box. A lot of times they'll also put a pattern on the inside of the box, so the mirror will give the illusion that the pattern is continuing through the entire box. Now, as you can see, I already painted the inside blue because the edges of the mirror were way too prominent and could be seen. I did try to attach something to the center of my mirror, but the seam where I attached it was way too prominent and totally killed the illusion. Now admittedly, I did buy the cheapest self-adhering mirror panels that I could find on Amazon, and that may be part of the problem. Or I just don't know what I'm doing. My advice to you is if you're going to build one and you would like to add some of these extra illusions, maybe look into getting a little higher quality mirror. Probably the trickiest part to the assembly was keeping the mirror and the plexiglass as clean as possible. Since the bank is small and the joints are pretty tightly fit, painter's tape will be plenty strong enough to hold the box together while the glue dries. I cut another piece of 1/2-inch plywood for the back lid and then rummaged up some scraps of cherry to use for the lip of the lid. Making sure to tape off the edges of the bank so I wouldn't accidentally glue the lid in place, I used Titebond's Quick and Thick and painter's tape to attach the lip, and I also added the same cherry to the front of the bank to cover the plywood edges. I made sure to save some of the cherry sawdust to make some putty to fill any gaps. Now you may have seen this technique before, but if your mitered corners are less than perfect, you can use something with a rounded edge, like a screwdriver, and very slightly round over those corners, closing any gaps. There are many ideas for little locking mechanisms for these types of banks online, but I decided to go really simple and just use some rare earth magnets. Off camera, I decided to add magnets to all 4 sides of the lid, and it gave it a really strong hold. For finish, I used one of my favorites, Odie's oil. Last but not least, I put some little feet on the bottom, and our little bank is complete. Alright, our magic piggy bank is finished. Let's go over a few things real quick. Number 1, I'm so glad I found this little scrap of plywood. Having that continuous grain go around this box, it just looks really cool. And even without the extras in the box, the illusion is still really effective on this, and the mirror happens to pick up a little bit of the outside light and makes it look a little bit like it's lit on the inside, and I think that's really cool. I'm thinking about doing a little research into the mirror, maybe getting another one and trying it again just to see if I can make one where I add the extra effects on the inside. Let me know in the comments below if you have any ideas of how we can make those illusions on the inside work just a little bit better next time. Thank you very much for watching, be safe, and have a great day.